And welcome to another episode of the Tar Heels Inder Podcast. I'm your host, Grant Chavchere, bringing you all the latest news in regards to your Tar Heels. And of course, I am also the lead beat writer for North Carolina Tar Heels on SI. And this is a huge weekend for UNC. You got the basketball game later on tonight. This is a game. It's not an actual regular season game, but it's a big one that's going to be streaming on ESPN Plus at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. And, of course, the very next day, actually less than, 12 hours later, UNC will play Virginia in the 130th edition of the South's oldest rivalry. No confusion with the Deep South's oldest rivalry, because apparently Auburn and Georgia, that's a very sensitive topic for them. But there's a difference between the Deep South's oldest rivalry and the South's oldest rivalry. And yes, Virginia is a southern state. Brother, the Confederacy was founded there. Like, that's as southern as you can get. And that's a history lesson that for a lot of people is not the one you want to be remembered for. But history is history. You can't change it. And Virginia is a southern state. If you were part of the Confederacy, you're a southern state. That's just my opinion. All right. Now, I'm from the South. I'm originally from Louisiana. Right. So it's a southern state. So Virginia and North Carolina, South's oldest rivalry. So let's get started with the basketball game, and then let's get into the football game because of course that happens first. Football happens tomorrow. It makes sense. We're going to cover both today for today's episode. So North Carolina will be traveling to Salt Lake City, not Provo, Utah. Right? BYU is located in Provo, Utah. But they're going to be playing the game at BYU. The reason why not at BYU, but they're going to be playing at the Delta Center in Salt Lake City. The reason why they're not playing it in Provo, it was for two, and it's not like BYU's arena is small. BYU's arena is actually bigger than the one in Salt Lake City. The Marriott Center is a really big arena. The BYU, and I don't think I've stated this on the podcast. I stated this on another podcast that I did with somebody else, not for SI, but I was a guest. And one of the things I mentioned was BYU is trying to become a top-notch program, and they're going to take advantage of that using NIL. NIL, of course, is huge when it comes to schools that have a lot of money. And BYU has a lot of money. BYU is a school that's founded by the Mormons, right? The Mormons, in general, I'm not saying every single Mormon is rich, but Mormons have a lot of money, right? They have a lot of money. The guy, the owner of the Jazz is a billionaire. And he's also a huge donor to BYU. And also want to mention this too. The Marriott Center is named after the Marriotts, who also own the hotel chain you see all over the country. And the owner's name is, of course, is Ryan Smith. Ryan Smith is the co-founder of Qualtrics, which is an experienced management company in Provo, Utah. Don't know what that means. But he has got a lot of money. He's also, if I remember correctly, he does a lot of stuff with Dwayne Wade. I think they're business partners or whatever. But, he's one of the richest people in the country. He's a billionaire. The man owns the Jazz, the Utah Mammoth of the National Hockey League, and of course the Real Salt Lake of the MLS. So a lot of money in Utah, and I also believe JetBlue is also located. Well, it's not located in Utah, but I think the owner or the CEO of JetBlue, and it's one of the airlines that I think they're owned by Mormons, right? A family of Mormons. Don't know which one that is. But yeah, there's a lot of money in Utah, especially Salt Lake City, which is one of the fastest growing cities in America. So there's a lot of money in Utah. So of course they're gonna be making they're going to be making a lot of money. The Utah Jazz are going to be making a lot of money off this game, and so will UNC. UNC would be making – they got paid, what, $500K to play in this game, right? And, oh, yeah, by the way, the guy who founded JetBlue, David Nealman, is Mormon, right? So, and I'm going to assume that he also, by the way, that's Zach Wilson's nephew. Zach Wilson's uncle. Zach Wilson, of course, quarterback of BYU. So, you get what I'm saying? There's a lot of money at BYU. Just kind of like, I mean, and if they can get rolling, BYU could be a powerhouse in athletics. And why do you think they got AJ DeBanza, right? I think AJ DeBanza getting paid pretty handsomely to go play for BYU. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's why they have to get players. But BYU, in general, they moved that game to Salt Lake City to make money. Let's just keep it above. They're there to make money. But not only that, put a stamp on the program. Right now, BYU is the number 18 in the country. BYU went to the Sweet 16 last year. They finished last season with a 26-10 record. They went to the Sweet 16 where they ultimately lost against Alabama. This season, they returned some good players, including Richard Saunders, who is a sharpshooter, is probably arguably their best sharpshooter. Maybe the best sharpshooter on the court, not named Kyan Evans, right? I mean, he's a hell of a shooter. He made over. Let me see. Yeah, he made 40. He shot 43.2% from three last year. He led the Cougars in points with 16.5 points per game. In conference play, he led the Big 12 3-point percentage with shooting 45% from beyond the arc. And he also is just a very efficient shooter in general. He shot 52% from the field in all last season. And also he led the Big 12 in true shooting percentage with a 66.5 rate. And, of course, he was also third in the Big 12 in offensive rating and effective field goal percentage, which was a 63.3 rate. So, very efficient shooter. You also got, AJ DeBanza, of course. I think we've all know about him. Number one recruit in the country, 2025 McDonald's All-American, 3-time FIBA gold medalist. He's an incredible player. 6'9", 215. And I think everyone's really excited to see that matchup between him and Caleb Wilson. Those two guys are going to be lottery picks in the NBA. And this is a great chance to showcase their skills in front of the country and really for both teams to showcase what they have. North Carolina is coming off of a down year. They went 23-14. They made the tournament. They got eliminated in the first round, but there's a lot of conversation of whether or not they should have made the tournament, right? They were like the last team to get in. There's a lot of controversy around that, and they're trying to build off that year. Hubert Davis, of course, win the transfer portal. Not only got size, right? There's 6 players on this team that are 6'10" or over, but he also got great shooting, versatility. He just got players that fit what he wants to do, right? And he also, I think a big reason for that is also he got Jim Tanner. He hired Jim Tanner as the general manager. He's the first basketball general manager. He's the first general manager that UNC basketball has ever had, and that's something you need in the modern NIL era. So I think this game really get to showcase what this UNC team is all about, because they're playing against a team that is not wearing Carolina blue, because of course they've been scrimmaging against each other and practicing against each other. So it's a good opportunity to go on the road and go up against a solid team like BYU, who's expected to do a lot of great things in college basketball this year. But then also it helps you build chemistry before the season. These guys need to gel together. They need to play together, especially when they're going against another opponent. And the season starts in 2 weeks. It starts on November 3rd on Monday against Central Arkansas. And then a few days later, they will play Kansas at the Dean Dome. So this is a great opportunity for UNC to get off the bat and running, right? And some of the things I expect to happen in this game, of course, I would expect a lot of offense. I don't know how much defense can be played because this is an exhibition game. And so I think this can be a little bit lax, but at the same time, it's going to have high intensity. I think you're going to see a lot of scoring. I think both teams are going to score over 75 points. Both have very good shooters, right? BYU already mentioned Richie Saunders. He's an excellent three-point shooter. He might be the best three-point shooter on the court outside of Kyan Evans for North Carolina. Robert Wright III. He's the biggest transfer portal haul that BYU had this year. He's the number 8 overall player out of the transfer portal. He was an all freshman. He was all Big 12 freshman last season for Baylor. Averaged 11.5 points per game. He had 4.2 assists, but he also shot 35.2% from three. And if you shoot 35% from three, you're a really good shooter, right? But they also have several other players that are excellent shooters as well, right? I mean, there's a lot of shooters in this. As a matter of fact, last season, BYU wants to shoot the three. They want to. They were 40th in the country in three-point percentage. By the way, there's like 350 Division I basketball programs. So if you're 40 out of 355, that's pretty damn good. Period. Right? And so anybody that they did lose out of the transfer portal, graduated, they added, right? They added Kennard Davis and Nate Pickens out of the transfer portal. Kennard Davis shot an average 16.3 points per game and shot 37.6% from three at Southern Illinois. And then Nate Pickens averaged about close to 10 points a game and shot 39.2% from three at UC Riverside. Dawson Baker returns from last year. He averaged 7.5 points per game and hit 38% of his threes through BYU last season off the bench. Right, so this is a very good three-point shooting team. And then North Carolina, on the other hand, of course, you got Kyan Evans. Kyan Evans shot 44.2% from three, and which was 24th in the country, which is pretty incredible. He's on the upper echelons when it comes to three-point shooting at the collegiate level. He also made 20 of his 48 three-point shots off the dribble, which is good for 41.7% for three. So very good three-point shooter. But you also have to mention Henry Vassar. Henry Vassar is a solid three-point shooter. He shot about 33% from three last year, and he actually shot 38.7% from beyond the arc against Big 12 competition. This guy, was their sixth man last year. He wasn't even a starter, so those numbers could go up this season as he's the starting center for North Carolina. Jaren Stevenson and Zayden High can also shoot for three. Luka Bogovac, if he could play today, because I know he's got some issues with his it's not so much from the NCAA, but it's from the university itself. They're trying to figure out some things. I'm going to assume it's with the transcript, but I had zero clue. But he also is a very effective three-point shooter. He shot nearly 40% from three in Europe last year, and he played professionally. Right? So a lot of three-point shooters on the court tonight. So I'm really excited for this preseason matchup, which is saying a lot because usually you're not really excited for exhibition games because it's usually like UNC versus like UNC Pembroke or like North Carolina or like Carolina versus Winston-Salem State, which we will play on October 29th. So it's not. So I'm not saying people aren't excited for those games. I mean, I think it's good for both programs. It's good for North Carolina to get ready for the season. It's also good for Winston-Salem State or UNC Pembroke or somebody like that to play an exhibition game against North Carolina, and also makes them money. Right? It's good. It's good all around for the programs. However, I think we're in a new age where revenue sharing and NIL are very important. So you're trying to make as much money as possible. So I think it's good for North Carolina to do these types of games. And also travel away from North Carolina, go on the road and go up against top-notch teams from around the country in the next business game because you get you ready for the season. You get some of those kings out before the season. You get to see a road environment. And then also it's just good publicity all around. All right, this game, even though it's not going to be played on TV, it's going to be streamed on ESPN+. It's still good publicity for all parties, whether it's North Carolina and the players, Hubert Davis, the state of North Carolina, and also for the opposing side as well. So very, very good thing. I'm glad North Carolina's doing this. Really excited for tonight, and I think you guys are too. Moving on to football, right? Let's talk about football because we got a big game tomorrow as well. UNC versus Virginia. This is the 130th edition of the South's oldest rivalry. This is a huge game. for both teams, even though UNC's down and Virginia's on the up and ups. This game still matters. It's a rivalry game. It's North Carolina's oldest rival, even more so than Duke and NC State. They played more. The Tar Heels have played Virginia more times than both NC State and Duke. Huge rivalry. And of course, it could be a turning point for North Carolina because right now they are trying to get out of the dump. I mean, it's already sort of a dumpster fire, but that they don't want that fire to keep building, right? So they need a win. They desperately need a win against Virginia, and I think they're going to play hard considering the fact that they nearly got a win over Cal last week, so they're hungrier than they were last week. And on top of that, it's a rivalry game. So this is a great opportunity for North Carolina to turn the ship. North Carolina, not North Carolina, Virginia. They're one of the top offenses in the country, led by Chandler Morris. Chandler Morris, of course, has completed 68.7% of his passes for 1,607 yards with 11 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. He also has 36 carries for 191 yards and 4 touchdowns. Very mobile quarterback. So it's very important that, they maintain the edge, make sure to wrap up because he's very elusive. And not only that, make sure, try to keep him in the pocket. Try to keep him in the pocket because the more he scrambles, the more breakdowns you have. Anyway, you also have Jamari Taylor. Jamari Taylor has 108 carries, 512 yards, and 8 touchdowns. He also has 19 catches for 102 yards. So very good back, over 600 yards of total offense. He actually played at NC Central the last few years. He was a starter over there before transferring to Virginia. And, has really done well coming up from the FCS level to playing Power 4 football and being a very good running back at that too. But he was a very good running back at NC Central as well, right here in the triangle. But you also have Harrison Whaley, 36 carries for 253 yards, which is 7 yards per carry and 5 touchdowns. And then Virginia also another guy running back they had was Xavier Brown. He's second on the team in carries with 51, and he also has 241 yards and a touchdown, but he will not be playing in the game on Saturday. He will be out due to an injury. Moving the receivers, you got Cam Ross, 28 catches for 329 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he will not be playing the game. He actually will be out for the game as well. A huge loss for Virginia because he can really do it all. He has a receiving touchdown, he has a rushing touchdown, and he also has a kickoff return for a touchdown. So it's a very, very integral part of this team. He can really do it all for Virginia, and he will be out, which is a huge loss. However, they still have Tar Heels, who has 28 catches, 405 yards, which is 14.3 yards per catch. That yardage total is actually the most on Virginia, and he also has 3 touchdowns, which is also a team high for Virginia. Jamal Erdine, 26 catches for 335 yards and a touchdown, and then tight end Sage Ennis. And although he only has 7 catches for 70 yards for the year, 3 of those catches are touchdowns, and all 3 of them were in the red zone. So watch out for Sage Ennis when Virginia is in the red zone. Offensive line is one of the best in the country. They've only allowed 5 sacks all year. This is what they lead the ACC in the least amount of sacks and allowed, and also tackles for loss allowed. Center Brady Wilson is the highest graded offensive lineman on this unit. He's missed the 3 previous games, however, so this will be his first game back. Right guard Noah Josie is also solid, and Mikhail Boley, who's so Noah Josie is a 4-year starter for Virginia. And Mikhail Boley is also their left tackle, is also a 3-year starter for Virginia. So this is a very experienced Virginia offensive line, but also this is a very experienced team in general. Every single starter but one on both offense and defense is either a senior or a graduate transfer. So this is a very experienced team. Virginia's done well. And also, I think 5 or 6 of them are transfers as well. So Virginia's done well in the transfer portal, but not only that, they have a lot of experience all around. But offensively, they also average 203.9 yards per game, which is third in the ACC and 26th nationally. But they'll be going against the North Carolina defense, rush defense that is 36th in the country, which is really surprising. I know UNC's defense has gotten a lot of flack, especially against Power 4 opponents, but they're 36 in rush defense. So they actually improved their numbers against the run this year compared to last year. However, the big issue is pass defense, and you're going against a very solid quarterback in Chandler Morris, a great receiving core in Virginia, great running backs as well. I mean, Virginia has a much better offensive Cal, right? So, yes, the defense did perform well against Cal last week, but just keep this in mind. Cal's offense is the greatest. They're one of the worst. They actually have a worse rushing offense than North Carolina. They also lead the country in drops, too. So, keep that in mind, right? So, this Virginia offense is much, much better than that Cal offense. I don't even know how Cal is even 5-2. Like, they're just really lucky. Because if you watch that game against Carolina, they were constantly shooting themselves in the foot, and they've been doing that all year. College football is weird like that, man. But anyway, the defense. Virginia has a very solid front. Their defense is relatively average. It's a lot like Carolina's. It's just kind of relatively average, but they do have better players than North Carolina. They have a better pass rush than North Carolina, and it starts with Daniel Rickert. Daniel Rickert has 17 tackles, a team high 4.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 19 stops, which is also a team high. Mitchell Melton, 29 tackles for 6. He had 29 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, which is the most on the team. 2.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. Two and a half sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 19 stops. So Daniel Rickert, let me start over. Daniel Rickert has 4.5 sacks, which is team high, 6 quarterback hits, and 2 pass breakups. Mitchell Melton has 29 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 19 stops. His 19 stops and tackles for loss numbers lead the team. Fisher Carmack's also a very solid player as well. Very tall guy, 6'7", by the way. 19 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks, and 3 pass breakups. On the interior defensive line, you got Jason Hammond, who has 14 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, a forced fumble, and 6 stops. Hunter Osborne, 11 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, a sack, and 4 stops. Jacob Holmes and Jameer Carter, also very solid players as well. So very deep defensive line for Virginia. A linebacker, you got Cam Robinson, 35 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, a sack, an interception, and a pass breakup. James Jackson, their other linebacker, 31 tackles with 2 pass breakups. So they have a pretty solid linebacker core. Also, you got to mention Maddox Marcellus, Landon Daly. Those guys would be rotating in and out as well. They also have 2 very solid linebackers. By the way, all of the linebackers have over 20 tackles, so very solid unit. And of course, and then the corners, they got a solid corner in Donovan Platt, who has 21 tackles, an interception, and 4 pass breakups. Emmanuel Carnley, 19 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and 3 pass breakups. So they have they got 2 decent cornerbacks there as well. And then there's safeties. You have to mention Devin Neal. Devin Neal, is one of the returning stars from last year. Very, very good player. He has a team high 40 tackles with the tackle with 1.5 tackles for loss. He has half a sack, and he also has 4 pass breakups. Jason Brevard, who is a nickelback, plays a spur position, but he's more of a nickelback, kind of like a Caleb Cost. He has 10 tackles, but he also has a team high 3 interceptions and 3 pass breakups. You also have to mention Ethan Minter, who is the only player on this team that is a starter who starts that isn't a senior or a graduate transfer. And he has 27 tackles and 2.5 tackles for loss. And also you have free safety Christian Charles, who rotates in with Ethan Minter, 24 tackles and 2 pass breakups. So a solid DB room. However, I'll say this: they're 86th in passing yards allowed, allowing 231.9 yards per game. So if North Carolina can get the passing game going, that'd be great because they've been struggling all year. But once again, this is a passing offense that's only thrown for over 200 yards once all season. So I mean, it's tough sledding for the Tar Heels. You need to throw the ball against this defense because Virginia is solid against the rush. Virginia, they are 38th, which is actually two rankings below North Carolina. They only allow 120.9 yards per game. So if you're North Carolina, you got to find ways. Yeah, you got to run the ball, but you also have to throw the ball down the field. You got to make people fear you when Gio, whether it's Gio or Max Johnson, drops back to pass. You have to if you want to win this game and pull off the upset because you need as many wins as you can get. Because after this game, it's tough sledding. You got to travel to Syracuse. You get welcome in Stanford, and Stanford's been proven to be a tough outing for some teams, right? They're 3-4 in the year. So I mean, they're not a great team. They're not a good team. They're not a very good team either, right? But Stanford is, but they've beaten some teams that that you can make a case that are maybe not as good as them, right? So, like for example, Florida State. Florida State's better than Stanford, but Stanford still beat them. So, I mean, so Stanford could be a tough outing. And of course, their last 3 games of the year are against the Tobacco Road schools: Wake Forest, Duke, and NC State. And I don't see the Tar Heels winning any of those. But if you want to have a chance to win any of those last 2 games, it starts with a win in these next few weeks. And you want to build up as you win this as much as possible. There needs to be more confidence in this room. Yes, there are gaining confidence, and the players acknowledge that throughout the press conference and everything like that. You could tell in that Cal game they were playing with a little bit more confidence, but you need something big to happen. You need something big to happen. Maybe that something could be an upset win over Virginia. So if UNC wants to win, number one, you have to throw the ball down the field. Make them fear you throwing the ball down the field. We know the Tar Heels have the capability of running the ball. We've seen them when they can run the ball successfully. I know it's Richmond, but they ran the ball successfully against Richmond. The offensive line is getting better and better each and every game. I think they finally figured out the offensive line rotation. I mean, Ben Hall is coming through. Bullet, Davion Gauze looked pretty good the last game. Maybe DeMont June could get it going again. It looks like Kobe Pesar is finally broken free from whatever curse he was under. And that could definitely complement Jordan Shipp, who's had a great year this year. You need to run the ball. You need to keep up the momentum with running the ball, keep up the improvement with the offensive line. You also need to throw the ball down the field. And then also you need to contain Chandler Morris because Chandler Morris can run. And the more you can contain Chandler Morris, the less effective he is. You don't want him scrambling, running out of the pocket, running for extra yardage, or still looking down the field and finding a wide open receiver. Because usually what happens, we have mobile quarterbacks, coverages break down because the DBs are more focused on the quarterback than they are on the guy that they are guarding or the zone that they are trying to cover. So they need to do that. And then also slow down Virginia's run game. The more you can slow down Virginia's run game, the more run dimension they get. It makes it easier to slow down Virginia's offense. It really does. But anyway, that's going to wrap up today's episode of the Tar Heels Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Grant Chavchere, and I'm also the lead beat writer for North Carolina Tar Heels on SI. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.